Sometimes it's hard to read a book if I don't think I'll remember most of what I read. What's the point? What's the point of that time that I spent doing this thing that's difficult, especially if it's something that's not a novel, it's more of an academic book? What's the point? And sometimes I think, what's the point in watching a movie if I'm not going to remember it? And what's the point in spending time with someone if you don't think they're going to be in your life forever? And what's the point in loving someone if it may end? I think about those things a lot. I feel like information and stimuli go in my brain and out quite quickly. I barely even grasp onto anything, even if I try. I try to continue to learn and I try to continue to discover things, but I feel like even when I do make those attempts, it doesn't matter because it disappears as soon as it goes in, it goes right back out. And yeah, most of the time I'm not happy. I'm not having fun. I am trying to wait out this moment until there is some peace or there's something that alleviates me from the existential dread and doom that I'm feeling quite often about myself and about, frankly, our generation and the world in general. Sometimes I wonder, when will my life start? And I realize it has started. It started the second I was born, and it specifically started the second I left the house for the first time and moved out. And every year passes and I still think that, and then I catch myself realizing it has been started, it's going, and the sand is moving in the hourglass. I think there's this pervasive sense of nihilism and dread that is crept in to the millennial and the Gen Z generation. We are not doing better than our parents, and I may never buy a house, and that's not even because I'm doing art as my job at the moment. Most of us may not even be able to buy a house. The average age for buying a house back then was 33, and now it's around 56, I think. And by the time we're adults, like really adults, you know, I don't even know, it may be even higher. I can barely afford to get my cavities filled. And then when I'm 70, there's gonna be no social security left. So there's a doom, and there's a dread, and we're not asking for too much. Things change so quickly all the time. Things are so overwhelming. I think that's a big part of why the information goes in and out so quickly, is because we're bombarded with a million pieces of information every single day. How am I supposed to prioritize things? Even once I do prioritize things, how am I supposed to hold on to these things when my cup is already overflowing? I only have so much space, and I feel like most of it is taken up by loud noises and headlines. A million thrown at me every single day. Bad and good news, mostly bad. We're really absorbed in ourselves. I'm absorbed in myself. Everyone. I'm absorbed in my career, in my appearance, in the way that people perceive me on the internet, on all this shit. Most of it doesn't matter. Most of it's just distracting us from the bigger picture, you know? We're an image-based culture right now. We're a video-based culture. We are not just a visual culture. We are also an algorithmic culture now. That is something that has been thrown into the ring recently. That's something that we've never had to face. It first started as oral language. That was the first way we were able to translate complicated ideas. And then it went into writing. Next became video. And the visual component changed everything. It didn't matter what a president looked like until we introduced television into our culture, into debates. And now we're at the whim of these few companies that control our entire other world. We are not just existing in the physical world anymore. There's a whole other world that has been created now, the virtual one. And it's weird because it's companies that control this virtual world. And the algorithms, they are God. They decide what gets seen and what doesn't. Even if what you make matters and people enjoy it, it can be censored. And now there's the last element of we can't trust what we see anymore. Any voice, any visual imagery could be completely artificial. It's moving too fast. Our brains were not built to handle this. We're biologically the same as basically like our hunter-gatherer monkey brains. We have not been equipped to deal with this. We've not been equipped to deal with 100 horrible headlines every single day, every single week. What do we do with all this bad information that we have basically no control over? There's a nihilism in politics. It feels like futile to try. It feels like authoritarianism has sort of become the trend a little bit in the democracy that Americans exist in. So there's a million problems, but what are the solutions? We need to realign our focus a bit. A lot of the things that we're being bombarded with, all these things. I have a belief, and maybe this is just, I feel like maybe it's already proven, but I would have a big belief that the people in charge, the people above us, normal people, it's in their best interest for us to be distracted and to be focusing on things that don't really matter. No matter what time it is, there's always a focus on the body and what it looks like. And specifically right now, there's a focus on thinness again. Thinness is an interesting one because, I mean, as someone who's previously dealt with eating issues, as most girls, women, have had some experience with at one point or another, and if you haven't, good, don't fall into the trap. It starts out as an innocent thing, and then it ends up consuming your life and all your thoughts, and it weakens you. You have no brain power to focus on anything, and your entire mind gets consumed with restriction, with food, with comparison of your body to someone else's. Your brain uses 20% of your energy, of your caloric intake, whether it's sleeping or whether it's awake, whether it's doing anything. The one difference is, like, if you're doing extreme exercise, sometimes it goes down a bit, but like 20%. If you're not feeding your brain, if you're not giving it the energy to work, you're making yourself more dumb. You're distracting yourself. You don't have the energy to focus on anything else but your physical appearance. And mind you, I care about what I look like. I care, you know? I fall also into the trap of just being a woman in this society today. It sucks. Like, your youth and your looks are considered almost the most important things a woman has to offer at times, which is so a whole other conversation that I'll get into one day maybe. But they're purposely trying to distract us from the bigger things. So we're on all these platforms, we're thinking about ourselves, but it's basically us. It's just an echo chamber. It's hollow. And the weird thing about the internet is it used to be a room. It used to feel like an actual place, and it used to feel almost janky and cozy at times. You'd go onto a forum, you'd go onto any of these old these social media platforms at the beginning, or even the ones that are not popular these days, like MySpace. Tumblr's making a resurgence, but Tumblr, just all these early form social media websites, you'd go on and it would feel like a room. You'd step into a room, you'd open the door, step into a room, and people wouldn't be online all the time. There would be specific times people would be online and interacting with you. I made a lot of real friends and real connections through these platforms. The algorithm makes it so it's not chronological anymore. So content is sort of willed in front of you depending on what the agenda is of the platform, of the people that have that control. and of the people that have the most money to push it, or the sponsors, or just the most PG content, or the content that features the most sexually engaging things. Yeah, so it feels less like we have control. It feels less like something almost the brain can wrap around, because chronological posting, I think the brain understands it a bit more, but now it's just random. It makes a lot less sense. Things now are prioritized that get instant engagement, and a lot of that is very extreme content, or things that cause an extreme reaction, and it's always much easier to get negative over positive engagement, always. So there's just a whole trend of rage baiting and things like that. Just that word is sort of just become absorbed into culture, because that is what fuels the algorithms, is a lot of that. I think Jake and Logan Paul were sort of the Lewis and Clark of that, like, sort of thing. I think a lot of other people as well, but I think they were sort of they were on it early. But yeah, so we have these rooms that used to exist, and now we don't have that. The internet is losing the communal value. A lot of the traffic and a lot of posting nowadays, it is a lot of it feels heavy in bot activity, and now with AI, a lot of it isn't even created by a real person, and it's even easier with AI to create things that will drive engagement. It feels like a mushy mess when you look on the internet these days. There's so much pleasure everywhere. There's so much pleasure that it's numbing, that it feels like nothing. And I think the bar keeps getting higher and higher for what will make you feel some kind of way. I wonder sometimes if our generation, this is a blanket massive generalization, obviously, especially more pertaining to, I would say, just from my personal experience growing up in America. Does our generation experience love in the same way as someone from the boomer generation, as someone from Gen X? Do we experience love in the same way? Because the way that love acts in the brain, the way that it makes you feel, the chemicals that are released, and the receptors that are engaged and all that shit, I think a lot of them are pretty similar to the ones that we are frying with all of this stimulation. Not that I'm not even putting the blame on us. We are born into this system, and like, it's an active fight to even have one bit of sanity and one bit of focus. I struggle every single day to get something of value done, to think actual thoughts. And I find myself, I'll put this video camera on, or I'll put a piece of paper in front of me, or I'll pull up a document to type on. It used to be a lot easier to do that, to string sentences together logically. I think it's because I used to read a lot more. I've been reading a bit, but I used to read all the time. And I think the way that you have to write, the way that your brain digests information, and the way that you have to genuinely write, to put together paragraphs, to create a novel, to create a story, like, it's a chronological stream. Or if you're reading more of an academic book, you have like arguments set up, and you have to understand these arguments, and then you have to understand the conclusion that they're making, and then you have to make your own judgments on what you've read. It's a very logical, somewhat chronological stream of, it's like, way of thinking. And I think now, with this short form, anti-chronological, algorithmic way that we are mainly communicating with each other and interacting with the world, at least virtually, I think it's doing an effective job of scrambling our brains. Because if what we're consuming, this is my theory. I want to work more on this and put it into better words. I'm trying. If the primary form of intelligence in an oral-based society, in one that is just spoken word, the way that you make judgments, the way that you settle disputes, the way that you primarily gauge intelligence is memorization, especially of parables and sort of proverbs and things like that. And then when you go to written language, being the written word and the age of the printing press, what is required of the brain is to sit and focus the body and the mind on one thing, to conjure up an image in one's mind of what is being said, digest that information, and make the judgment on whether or not, if this is not a novel, on whether or not you agree with the argument being presented or the information, or just understanding something complex. And if it is a novel, it's understanding a sequence of events in a chronological order and digesting that. And it's also just a slow trickle of information if you're reading a novel. It takes me, I'm a slow reader, I'm a really slow reader. But now, okay, we had the age of television, but we're even past the age of television. We're mainly in this new uncharted realm, the next realm, which is, this non-chronological, short-form, visual, video world, which is the main way we receive and give information and communicate. I think our brains are extremely ill-equipped for this kind of way of understanding things. I think it's hard to receive 100 pieces of information of all these events that are happening throughout the world. Mind you, the daily news did not even exist until the telegram was invented. It's easier to transfer information, so now we're getting more and more up to date. The second I go on Instagram or Twitter, or X, whatever, I'll call it X, we can get information on something that happened a minute ago across the world, which is crazy, and the brain is not ready to understand something like that. So we're getting a bunch of information from all around the world, news, whatever, every day. On top of that, we're just getting a bunch of random stimulating content that some of it sticks with me a little bit, and then a lot of it is just made to engage. And also a lot of these platforms, they also have a way of monetizing views now, so everything is really, really palatable, really engaging right off the second you see it. And now we have ways of creating content extremely rapidly without even much human interference. I think it's really weird that the way that we receive most of our content is under the control of companies, under specific people with certain interests. I wish I had more solutions right now. I've been reading, if you've read it, Neil Postman's Amusing Ourselves to Death, and I'm saying a lot of his stuff. I've only read the first few chapters. They're really good, and I need to read it more and digest and honestly reread. I've also read a good few DFW essays and stuff like that on this subject that have inspired me. It's interesting because they talk about the world up until the age of television, but now we're in an uncharted territory where we have all these social platforms and the internet that's extremely accessible and as our primary form of communication. But now it's progressed even further, where the enshittification is happening of all these platforms, and then AI is introduced, and we have monetary incentives for certain content. We have non-chronological algorithms. I wonder what the next phase will be of all of this. I'm worried about my brain. I've been off my phone a good bit this past week and a half, and it feels a lot better. I wish that I didn't need to use social media at all, but I'm quite not there yet with things in my life. And it is a way I stay connected. It's the way I communicate with a lot of people. It's the way I tell people what I'm doing. It's the way I share my ideas. So I am a little bit Stockholm syndromed into the whole thing. YouTube is one I would never quit, I don't think. But Instagram, I would probably be on it a lot less if I didn't feel the pressure to be on it. This is me just trying to understand what's been floating through my head. Talking it out is good. Yeah. I may edit this down and share it. Maybe not. Doesn't matter. I think it was good for me to talk it out anyway. I find this stuff all very interesting and scary. It is me trying to just grapple with the world that we're in currently. The thing is, I have a lot of hope. It's easy to let the nihilism take over. I've been feeling it really bad recently. But I have a lot of hope for specifically this generation. I think we're the generation they're all testing on with all this crazy new technology. But I think we're smart and resilient, and honestly, probably, hopefully, maybe the most emotionally intelligent generation. But I believe we have some pent-up energy inside us, and we're all feeling really angsty and doomy, and we're numbing ourselves out and dissociating ourselves. But I think if we can find a way to come together and align our focus, I believe we can do some crazy things. And that may not be now, but I think hopefully soon. Maybe there will be a focusing event where we all come together. But I believe in us. I think there have already been times that have shown that we can do that. But I think we're very powerful. And I really believe in us to change things. And I don't want that hope to leave me. I think hope is sometimes all we have in the darkness. It is the light at the end of the tunnel. And it's what keeps me pushing forward. And hope for a better tomorrow is what keeps me trudging through when I feel horrible and that I'm just coping every day. I have hope for a better tomorrow, and things may be really weird and strange and bad right now, but I believe this won't be forever, and I believe that we will find a way to come together and do something about this nihilism that we feel. I hope to think of maybe some ways we can do that. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have an amazing morning, day, night, whatever you are experiencing at this moment. Stay logical.